Hi, this is Evan Jones. We're looking at the last game of Preptest 64, Game 4. This one is going to feel like a bit of a break after Game 3, which was really tough, but this is still a moderate difficulty game. If you can get a handle on the distribution and then use your intuition to get to some answers quicker, you'll have a pretty easy time with it. So let's take a look at how that plays out and do the setup. Okay, setup-wise, we've got these 8 books, and they're going on 3 shelves. And so I've listed my 8 variables out here, and our shelves are the top, the middle, so I'm just doing mid for that, and then the bottom. And then with those 3 shelves, I think it's good to preserve, the order, the sort of order of having that be visually up on top. All right. And sorry, my B was a little ugly there, so let's try and make a prettier B. And then with that, we're given some more rules, okay? And so for the setup, we've got 8 books, and they're going onto 3 shelves, top, middle, and bottom. And I think it's a good idea to preserve the visual order with the top up above, rather than writing it like top, mid, bottom, etc. Keep it the way that they have it conceptually, and I think you'll have an easier time with it mentally. And then, so the conditions for this game are that there's at least 2 books placed on each shelf. So right away, I draw little squares that indicate to you that these spots have to be filled. All right, and then do that for each shelf here. So that's taking out 6 spots right there, and then there's just 2 more books that are going to be floating around somewhere else. And then for more specific conditions, we've got more books are placed on the bottom shelf than on the top. How is this going to play out? I don't really know yet. So when I don't really know, you might do something like greater than the top, B to T, something like that. Something to just help you remember it, but we don't really know how this plays out. Usually by the end of diagramming, you'll have a better idea how these distributions might work when you get some more information. So then, moving on to the rules, we see that I has to be here in the middle, so that's good. It's filling one of these required spots. And then K is on a higher shelf than F. So K, then F. And O is on a higher shelf than L. And then our last rule is that F is on the same shelf as M. So we've got a little MF unit that have to go together. And I just add that onto this prior rule. Now, taking a look, they didn't really give us any more information. So if I'm trying to think more about how this rule plays out, well, if we have 3 up here, and then we'd have to have 4 down here, right? Sorry, I should not draw those as squares. If we had 3 up here, then we need to have 4 here. That's a total 7, and that doesn't work, right? Because then that middle shelf, we'd have an empty spot here, and that would be no good. So it's impossible to have this top shelf have any more than 2 spots, and those 2 spots have to be full. You could put an X out here or a slash to symbolize nothing else can go out here. Meanwhile, on the bottom, we know we're going to have at least 1 more spot, so that we can have more than the top. And there could be, somebody here, or, those remaining 2 could just go in the middle. Sorry, the remaining 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, there's only 1 remaining 1, and we don't know. It jumps around between these 2 spots. So that's our main diagram, and with that, I'm feeling pretty ready to go in and attack the answer choices. So question 19, this game skips an acceptability question. So we were just supposed to look at a complete and accurate list of books that could be placed on the bottom shelf. And immediately you can eliminate answer choice A because it's just not filling as many spots as we need to fill down there. So that's gone. And then, I'm just visually looking these over and seeing if they break any rules. If I have to, I'll diagram them out. But FHM on the bottom, FHM looks great. We've got this F and M group that we know has to be together, and then H is a very free variable. That thing can go basically anywhere. There's no rules about it. So B looks like a very good, complete and accurate list that's possible on the bottom. If you want to just verify it quickly, you can. You'd have FHM, I, we know we have to satisfy this LO block, and then we can have, say, K here, and then our last variable is G. That can go right on the middle shelf. Again, that's an unrestricted variable. Might be good to circle G and H because there's no rules that apply to them. They're totally unrestricted variables. So B works as a complete combination. So you just had to look for something promising there, and B looked promising, and it works as the right answer. Okay, on to 20. So 20 is a question that's using some scare tactics. It looks like it's going to be like very, very difficult. You have to just kind of walk up to it and punch it in the face because it's not as tough as it looks. So here we've got, they're asking us what's a combination of placements that can then fully determine what's on the rest of the shelves. Okay, so then A is saying I and M are placed on the same shelf as each other. The reason I want to check this, it looks very promising because it gives us some additional information about where M is that we couldn't get from just another random combination, like say K and G. So this is a promising, I'm using intuition to determine that this is a really promising one to try out first. And I think good test takers will save themselves some mental agony by seeing that this is a good one to try and just trying it right away. Even if you were doing straight up trial and error on this, you'd hit this A first, but it's better if you can sort of see that it looks promising initially. So you'd have I and M on the middle shelf. Here, and then you need F with M, right? So that middle shelf is as full as it can be. Remember, the max it can have there is 3 with following this distribution. And now we're going to have 3 on the bottom, and we can just fill in our K's and our O's, right? Putting the K above the MF, splitting the OL up so we can follow this rule. And then we're left with G, and then our last remaining variable is H, the other free variable. And yeah, that works fine. So we totally determined where everything is just from knowing that I and M were there. And that leaves us with A as the correct answer. 21 is another similarly intimidating looking question that ends up being pretty easy. So there's rewards for people who are able to jump in and just start trying what they need to try here. And I'm looking for something that must be true, and I want to start scanning for promising answers, and then try those that are promising. And I look at A, and I see O is placed on a higher shelf than M. And that looks pretty promising, right? Because if you see this sequence here, the only way that this could not be true is if they're on the same shelf in the middle. So I just want to try that right away and see if it has to be true or it has to be false or what. And if we can't do this, then we know A is our right answer because it must be true that O is higher. So let's see, then this forces L down to here, and I is already on that middle shelf. And already, if you can remember your distributional rules, that's not too many people on that middle shelf. So it must be true that O is on a higher shelf than M. You can't get them together on the middle shelf, and that gives us A as a correct answer. So another difficult problem that will be a very quick solve if you just attack it very aggressively. So 22 is the second to last question from the end, and unsurprisingly, it's pretty difficult. You're given this condition that, you know, G is up top, right? And then you know, of course, that I is in the middle, but you don't really have any other information. So I think generally, rather than sitting here and torturing your brain trying to make additional inferences that are very, very difficult, you're better off just doing the work, you know, just going to trial and error style and doing it. So I try to put H in here, and then I quickly see, because this is A, so I'm testing A, just H and I in the middle, and I quickly see that that's going to be impossible because it forces K and O up top. You'll have M, F, L, and then there's 3 up top. That's no good. So that's how you eliminate A there. A's gone. And then just moving on to B, resetting my diagram here. For B, I've got I and L. And that forces O up top. And then again, it's the same issue. So we're clearly just playing with this theme of forcing 3 up top. And once you recognize that theme, I think this is a quick solve, you know, because you can just kind of see it play out. So now we've got H and L. That's going to force O up top again, M, F down here, and then forces K up top. Same thing. So it's just playing with this theme. And that gets rid of A, B, and C are gone now. I'm left with D, H, K, L. This forces O up top, but now what's different here is this K is in the middle row. So then this M and F can land happily down here. And then we have the H. We've satisfied all the rules, and D is the correct answer. So kind of time consuming because you just have to, I think you just have to do the work. But if you attack it aggressively, things turn out pretty good. So that's question 22. 23 gives us L is placed on a higher shelf than H. So we could add this on, this new rule. We've got this new rule O, L, and H. And the only way to do that is to have, you know, top, middle, bottom, O, outside that looks like a D, O, L, H. And now we have I here. So what additional inferences can we make from that? The one I saw is with this MH group, and this is a very good inference and a little difficult to make, but because of distributional issues, there's only one place where our MF little mini group can fit. It can't fit in this middle, or there's too many people going in there. So the only place to put this F and M group is on the bottom. And that's a hard inference to see, so of course every time after I make that, I'm checking if it just answers the questions. And it doesn't apply to A and B, but if you get down to C, you see H and M are placed on the same shelf as each other. Yeah, we know that's true now. So that derives C as the correct answer. Tough game, not nearly as hard as game 3, but still, especially if doing game 3 puts you under time pressure, this is going to be a tricky one. And ideally, you know, talking about the section strategy here overall, you probably wanted to finish this game a little ahead of time so you could go back to handle anything left undone on game 3. So just remember that if you had trouble doing all these in the right amount of time, you might have been better off experimenting with leaving 2 or 3 of those end questions on game 3 undone and getting back to them now. Okay, so that's Preptest 64's game sections. I hope you did well, and will join me back here for Preptest 65 in the next couple of days. Okay, thanks, bye.